Chain Gang All-Stars just may be the best dystopian I have ever read. Do you know that meme with George Orwell and Margaret Atwood? This meme? I hate this meme. Dystopian novels are not good because they predict the future. They're good because they see the present. Orwell wasn't warning us about some mystical future threat, but the present threat of authoritarianism. And Atwood's examples come from the real world. She's just matched them together in a new way. Chain Gang All-Stars is criticizing the penal justice system by representing it as blood sport. And it really gets how to oppress people. It really understands the systems of power that allow these atrocities to happen. If you want to know if you should read Chain Gang All-Stars, it does plot well, it does characters better, it's got a great setting, it's got queer themes, it's satisfying in both a literary fiction sort of sense, and it's satisfying in a speculative dystopian novel kind of way too. It is both thought-provoking and entertaining, and it even works as a book club novel. It has very broad appeal, and it is nothing short of brilliant. I was left asking myself, is there a single type of reader who wouldn't enjoy this novel? Then I realised it's about blood sports. You probably know if this isn't your kind of book. Which is actually another wonderful thing about this book. It markets itself well. This is not just a 5-star novel. This is a book that we will be discussing for years to come. Loretta Thorwell and Hamara Hurricane Stacker are the stars of Chain Gang All-Stars, the flagship television show of CAPE, Criminal Action Penal Entertainment, where prisoners fight to the death for their freedom. The first thing we all think is that this is fantastical, that this would never happen in our world. But this idea is lifted from ancient Rome. These are gladiators. Humans have done this before, and there's nothing noticeably different about humans in ancient Rome 2,000 years ago and humans today. Human nature and civilization are not the things that prevent this from happening. I don't think that the ideas in this book are as far-fetched as they seem. Other than the fights to the death, everything else is taken from the real world. The majority of the brutality that you see is criticism of the penal justice system. When we take away the metaphors, this book is arguing for the removal of prisons. That is a radical idea, but the argument and ideas in Chain Gang All-Stars are both compelling and well researched, and I would argue that this idea is no more radical than a system that centers punishing the perpetrator of the crime rather than helping the victim of the crime. So what would a world without prisons look like? It seems reasonable to suggest that a system without a major crime deterrent would want to look at the root causes of crime and reduce them. The strongest correlation with crime is poverty and inequality. People who are hungry or scared that they might become homeless, they're more likely to steal. People who don't feel like society cares about them are less likely to care about society. In the US, it is estimated that the annual burden of incarceration is conservatively $500 billion. To put that into perspective, it is estimated that the US could end homelessness for $8.1 billion. That's less than 2% of the cost of prisons. And homelessness is a major cause of stress and crime. But we couldn't close down all of the prisons, could we? Because that would reduce the safety of everybody, right? Let's have a look at what some academics have to say on this issue. There was increasing evidence that prisons were not effective in reducing crime. The reforms suggested in this article can result in the reduction of prison numbers by more than 90% without any diminution in public safety. There is little evidence to suggest that prisons reduce recidivism, and at least some evidence to suggest that they have criminogenic effects. Research into specific deterrence show that imprisonment has, at best, no effect on the rate of reoffending and results in a greater rate of recidivism. Prisons do not reduce recidivism. Meanwhile, an article by Vischer in 2008, reviewing much of the existing evidence carried out in the 70s and 80s, which suggested that prisons did reduce crime, found numerous miscalculations, assumptions, and inaccuracies. Vischer's paper suggests there is little correlation between prisons and crime. I do not think that this is a political question, but rather a question of the evidence. Prisons do not reduce crime any more than Bloodsport does. Chain Gang All-Stars is making this argument from a place of compassion, asking you to consider the prisoners. And rather than saying there is a better system, all it is really saying is that the current system is broken. The current system has issues. So if we know prisons don't reduce crime, why do we still have them? What does Chain Gang All-Stars have to say about that? I very much wanted to include a stat showing you how many people die in private prisons in the US, but a bipartisan Senate report found that that information hasn't been collected, and there are at least 990 deaths uncounted in 2021. Human life is valued so much, nobody can be bothered counting the dead. Whatever is preventing us from thinking that blood sports are possible, it isn't the sanctity of human life. Australia has a higher rate of private incarceration than the USA, 18% compared to 8%, the highest rate of any country in the world. Victoria, my home state, has a rate of somewhere between 40 and 50%, the most progressive state in Australia, apparently. This is not just an American problem. This is an Australian problem too. It's also a British problem. Britain has a higher rate of private prisoners than the US. In Australia, just one operator, Serco, made over $1 billion running private prisons. When profit is to be made, turns out as a society, we're pretty good at not seeing people. And let's turn this away from prisons. Let's change it so that nobody can say, we'll just follow the law. 70% of the world's chocolate is made from the labour of trafficked humans and slaves, often children. In 2022, Hershey's made $10.4 billion, Mondel's, the owners of Cadbury, made $31.5 billion, Mars $45 billion, and Nestle $99 billion. The key difference between our world and that of Chain Gang All-Stars is that the brutality is visible, it is televised, it is not hidden by obscure supply chains, it is not conveniently uncounted or palatably out of sight. Some people may be processing that I just said that chocolate is farmed by slaves. Some people may be pretty upset at me right now, but it's not my fault Kit Kats are made from blood chocolate. Ask yourself, did you know slavery was an issue within the chocolate industry? How do you think the chocolate industry feels about me telling you about it? How many people will stop eating chocolate because of that fact? So when people talk out about Chain Gang All-Stars in the book, how effective do you think that is? How effective are the protesters in the novel? There are plenty of protesters and they cause a lot of embarrassment. But that's all it is. Embarrassment. Imagine being so powerful that you could murder people, and when somebody called you out for doing it, you didn't feel threatened or in danger of being jailed, but embarrassed. By the way, fair trade chocolate is slave-free. Of course, there's no such thing as fair trade blood sport, and Chain Gang All-Stars is not about the chocolate industry, but it is about a capitalist system of control that allows big companies to make money doing horrible things. We can see that within this couple that is watching Chain Gang from the safety of their couch. They don't interact with the plot. They are completely unnecessary when it comes to character development. But oh, do they add to the themes and the understanding of the novels, the mega fan and the reluctant viewer. Nobody is arguing Chain Gang All-Stars is not entertaining. As you read, you invest in the characters as much as the couple on the couch. You're enjoying the show through the book as much as they are through the television, and nobody is arguing that chocolate isn't delicious. Apathy isn't the only system of control. Machiavelli said, if one can't be both, it's better to be feared than loved. However, I just find the seduction and the ease at which people are conscripted to the ideas presented in this book absolutely fascinating. The apathy, the fact that most of you are going to continue to eat chocolate, despite knowing 70% of it comes from slaves, despite knowing that fair trade chocolate is an option. So why would you think that penal blood sports is not possible? This is the kind of unpretentious, well-executed, thought-provoking, entertaining onion of a novel that will be discussed for years. And if you've read this novel, let me know what aspect of society you thought was reflected within it. And make sure you subscribe to this channel. Bye-bye.